next grand plan or anything like that. The closest thing to a notable event is a potential wild wasteland random encounter, in which we can find a nuclear bomb buried into the ground that's undetonated. And this bomb has the same model and texture used as the megaton explosive. It's just undetonated. And it too has a Vault-Tec logo. As it's a wild wasteland encounter though, we probably shouldn't take it all that seriously. Anyway, let's just move on, back to Fallout 4, and specifically, its DLCs. Starting off with Nuka World. So, Nuka World, of course, was the game's final major expansion, and it took us to the Nuka World amusement park, which was divided into multiple separate themed zones. So, there was a Kitty Kingdom themed zone, a Safari Adventure themed zone, and of course, a Space Galactic themed zone. This Galactic Zone was unique though, as it was constructed not just by the Nuka-Cola Corporation, but in collaboration with ArcJet Rocket Systems, Robco, and Vault-Tec. Vault-Tec specifically erected an attraction called Vault-Tec Among the Stars. This was a ride, or really museum experience kind of thing, that allowed visitors to tour what a vault might look like on a different planet. Specifically, the planet Arcturus 1. On the ride, we can see biofarms, astronauts in suits, robotic aliens. It's a neat little moment. Now, unfortunately, we do later learn, thanks to some terminals, that the Vault-Tec company was using this ride to perform horrifying experiments on its staff and visitors. However, still, maybe this idea for an attraction didn't just come out of nowhere. Maybe Vault-Tec wasn't really treating this attraction as a ride, but more of as a test, as a practice. Who knows? If not, it's quite a coincidence the company would opt to participate in something like this, rather than, I don't know, just build a fake vault anywhere else in the park. Oh well. Then there's the Wasteland Workshop expansion, which I never thought I would talk about in a video like this. The Wasteland Workshop was, of course, a settlements-based DLC that allowed players to construct their own mini-vaults after discovering the ruins of Vault 88. Or really, the Vault 88 construction site. The vault was never finished. Well, while we're down in the construction site, we can find that Vault-Tec actually discovered uranium deposits. Remember how we were wondering how the heck they could build a nuke on their own? I think we found our answer. Alright, well, let's finally head on over to Fallout 76. The latest game in the franchise that absolutely everybody loves and has no negative reviews, and everyone's very excited for this part of the video. Anyway, 76 right off the bat doesn't appear to necessarily confirm or deny any of these theories. However, recently, as many of you know, 76 received its Wastelanders expansion that introduced human NPCs, dozens of hours of new questing content, and a few new locations. One of the big places Wastelanders focuses on is an area called the Crater. This is a place that appears in vanilla Fallout 76, and just appears to resemble the crash site of an old space station. Normally, this place was always relatively inaccessible, meaning we couldn't go inside and look around. However, with Wastelanders, we can now do just that, and it's actually a major base for the incoming Raider faction. What we learned from the inside of this thing is that, at least judging by the paint that's used on various doors, a couple of the bodies, and a few terminal entries, it seems there were Vault-Tec scientists aboard the space station when it was in orbit. What would they be doing up there? Furthermore, there's a location called Vault-Tec University that's always been on the map that chances are you're at least somewhat familiar with, even if you haven't played Fallout 76. Like, you've probably seen it before in trailers and whatnot. Well, Vault-Tec University originally was a normal private university that the Vault-Tec company bought sometime in the late 21st century and turned into their own institution. When Vault-Tec purchased this university, at least as terminals tell us, they immediately fired the overwhelming majority of the staff and replaced them with their own Vault-Tec employees. The only people who were able to remain were individuals the company deemed relevant to their objective, So think engineers and a couple of scientists. Those kinds of people were allowed to stay. Well, those people and another exception. 2 professors, one named Michael Blake and another with an unknown last name but the first name of Jacqueline. These 2 individuals were linguists. They specialized in studying foreign and ancient languages. For some reason, Vault-Tec kept them aboard. And what they were studying just before, well, you know what happened, was something called the Horse Creek Petroglyphs. Apparently the Horse Creek Petroglyphs were a series of Stonehenge-like stones that contained some weird engravings on them that these 2 researchers were trying to understand. For whatever reason, Vault-Tec must have decided that their work was relevant enough to keep them on board. Now, the Horse Creek Petroglyphs are a real thing in West Virginia. You're seeing a picture of them on screen now. And with the addition of the Wastelanders update, Bethesda actually added the stones in the game, with the weird inscriptions. Now, they weren't attached directly to any quests or anything like that. They were just plopped right in and left without a trace. But they're here now. Many suspect that these have extraterrestrial origins, and that Vault-Tec kept those 2 staffers on board because they really wanted to figure out what those glyphs are telling them. Since the addition of these rocks, which have been dubbed the Guide Stones, there has been an incredible community effort to try and translate them and figure out what they say. There's a particular Fallout 76 data miners Discord where most of this activity has been going on, and it's incredible what they've tried to do. They, in fact, seem to have effectively translated much of it. So far, it still mostly comes out to gibberish, but one phrase made out is quote-unquote, "Prepare yourself for destruction of your life by fire when you arrive. Life weakens. Protect what remains here on Earth." End quote. I'll leave a link to this Discord in the description down below so you can check it out for yourselves. But the overwhelming consensus there, which is pretty much confirmed, and I'll explain why in a second, is that it's definitely aliens behind these stones. And these aliens are a little bit more personal than you might think. Because data miners have also cracked another interesting sort of code, but one of a different kind. At the National Research Radio Center, there's a couple of terminals that currently don't do anything relevant for the purposes of this video. However, deep in their files, we can uncover they have IDs related to these guide stones, and unused actions that would allow the player to seemingly send messages to an alien in space. I know it sounds very, very weird and vague, and that's kind of the nature with these data mine things. The consensus is that we'll probably receive something in a future update or DLC that actually allows us to perform this function, and it's possible it could vary greatly from what we found so far, given the nature of, you know, data mining future content, but it looks like there's definitely more to this story. And if that's not all, Vault 96 is a vault in Fallout 76 that currently isn't accessible by normal means. You can't go into it or anything like that. Bethesda has confirmed that eventually in the future, it will be opened up as a part of a raid/dungeon thing like they do with most vaults. Well, for a long time, players have actually been able to glitch into this structure, and data miners have also reviewed all of its files. And one very interesting discovery made is that inside, there's supposed to be a Flatwoods monster boss that would spawn in. The Flatwoods monster is, of course, just a Zetan alien that appears in 76. What would it be doing in this vault? Well, we don't know yet, because the vault's not open. This is all still admittedly subject to change, as is the nature with anything we're trying to data mine from the future. Bethesda might decide they don't want to go that route, or we could be dealing with placeholder assets. However, given everything we know about Vault-Tec and their previous interesting relationship with the stars, I think we can safely say there's definitely something going on here. And the company may even be in contact with the fourth kind. Not to mention their presence on the spaceship and everything, it just all makes too good of sense. And hopefully, very soon, Fallout 76 will finally give us the answers we've long been searching for. My personal theory, and the one that seems to be the general popular consensus on Reddit, is that the Voltech Corporation had a deep relationship with the Enclave. The Enclave's objective was always to go into space and utilize ships to